Governments have many options to raise revenue. I think taxpayers expect that they do and will need to. Why on earth would they choose stamp duty here?
Well, I suppose because they think the only people who are going to pay it are people who have the capacity to pay for very expensive properties. And up to a point, I guess that's true, but raising a lot of more money from a small number of people who probably don't vote for the existing government anyway and who have a lot of money is, politically expedient, but that doesn't mean it's either sensible or good for the broader economy. And the New South Wales government appears to recognise that. Unfortunately, the Victorian government doesn't. One of the best ways of achieving reform of state tax systems along the lines that's been recommended by inquiries like the Henry Review or recommended in New South Wales by the inquiry headed by David Thodey, the former chair of Telstra, would be for the big states, New South Wales and Victoria, to work in concert. And at one stage, Tim Pallas, the Victorian Treasurer, did appear to be entertaining the option of working with his New South Wales counterpart to achieve sensible, beneficial reform of the state tax system. But it would seem now that our two biggest states are going in opposite directions. And I think from a national point of view, that's very disappointing.
What does it create then? We've seen people move states over this pandemic. Does this create, obviously there's different tax systems in those two states, but what do you think the effect will be on house prices, movement of people, etc.?
Well, I'm not sure that this will have any significant impact in either the short or medium term because, as the Treasurer in Victoria is no doubt aware, this is affecting a relatively small number of people. But I would say more broadly that Victoria, which has come to depend over the past 10 years to a much greater extent than any other state or territory on people moving to it, both from other states and from overseas, Victoria has done a lot of damage to its image as a place that people might want to move to, both by its mishandling of the pandemic last year, by its over-the-top policing, which is going to get worse as a result of the proposals Mr. Pallas has got. Among the other things that are on his agenda are a 10% increase in fines. Victoria is already the state which uses its police force as a branch of the state tax office to a much greater extent than any other state. We saw that during the pandemic when Victoria was levying some of the heaviest fines in the world for breaches of lockdown regulations and enforcing them much more zealously than, for example, the police in Russia or Saudi Arabia. And just raising fines by 10% to raise more money just underscores the fact that, Victoria is doing itself a lot of damage as a place that people might want to move to. And I think this will add to the effect that we're already seeing of people leaving Melbourne and Victoria to move to other states, which hasn't happened since the early 1990s. And I suspect when migration is allowed to resume again, when our international borders